Welcome to the Money Manifestation Mastery podcast with your host, Lara Waldman, where we talk all things money. Big money, big purpose, big power. Waking up your wealth for heart-centered business owners and entrepreneurs. Hello, hello. We are live here with the beautiful Bernadette Doyle, where we're going to be talking about the ABCs to consistent 10K months. This conversation is for you if you are struggling to hit it 10K months consistently. Maybe you've hit it, maybe you've even gone beyond it, but you're struggling to do it consistently, or you've never hit that milestone of 10K months and you are ready to learn the simple steps to making it happen. I'm so delighted to introduce you to Bernadette Doyle, who's going to be sharing her genius with us today. But I'm particularly moved by this conversation because Bernadette Doyle was my very first business coach and mentor who transformed my life, transformed my business. I was hiding as a healer in London, the world's best kept secret. I was really undervaluing myself, undercharging. I had zero marketing strategy, zero sales strategy. There was no marketing, no sales. It was very much the universe will bring people to me. And I think the most I was charging was £50 an hour, but mostly like even lowering that price. I could not even hold that. And then I stumbled across one of Bernadette's Facebook ads, which was talking about creating 5-figure months, right? 10K months. And my inner guidance had already started to tell me that I needed to work on my money game. And it felt like a sign from the universe. And I clicked on that ad and I signed up to one of Bernadette's, free trainings, and then became her client, and my business and my life was transformed. And I'd love to tell you a little bit about that story. But first of all, Bernadette, welcome. It's so lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much. And I just want to hear your story now.
Well, yeah. Can you tell us just a little bit about you before I talk about the amazing support you've given me over the years?
Yeah, so I'm Bernadette Doyle, and this year I will be celebrating 28 years of being in business. I started out working with corporates, helping their teams to get more business, and primarily through using cold calling, sort of direct outreach techniques. And after a couple of years of doing that, I really felt guided. And actually, the word client magnet floated into my head one summer. And I really felt guided to work with self-employed people, coaches, therapists, healers, people that I saw had tremendous gifts to offer the world, but weren't necessarily monetizing those gifts, weren't reaching the people they were meant to be serving, for two main reasons. One, they did not have the marketing, the marketing and sales know-how, the tactics, the strategies, but also because of their own undervaluing, I believe, of like this brilliance that they had to offer. And so I just really felt like guided to start working with those people. And what's always been the driver, and this is why I'm excited to do this interview with you, is I always think it's not about helping the person who's in front of me. It's like, who are all the people that they're meant to be working with, that they get to serve. And that's what kind of floats my boat, is the idea that if I'm helping someone to find the courage to be more visible and to show up in a new way, that they're now attracting new people, it's like the world becomes a better place. Everybody wins. So that's what I do. And originally I was working offline. I've been online for nearly 20 years now. I just calculated, I launched my first digital product. We didn't even use the term digital product back then. Digital creator was an expression back then. It was an ebook. And it was called The Emergency Action Plan for Attracting Clients Fast. And that was a book that I launched, an ebook that I launched 20 years ago. And basically my online business grew from there. And now I primarily work with people through a combination of online trainings and weekly coaching in small groups, helping people to make at least 100K in their business, hence the 10K months.
Beautiful. And you do it exceptionally well. So I'm so excited for anyone listening because I don't know about everyone listening, but I remember feeling like this 10K month was like, how do you enter the 10K month, area of business growth? And it was something I wanted. It was on my vision board. I was getting that guidance. I knew it was right, but I was so stuck just before I met Bernadette. And what I love about you, Bernadette, is you are like no nonsense. You cut through the crap. You actually teach in a very clear and concise and simple way, and you explain it really well. And there's no fluff. It's just like, this is how it is. This is what you need to do. And it was incredible. But what I realized is I had to go through like quite a big pivot in my understanding of business, how I was doing it, understanding there was a lot of skills I was missing and information I was missing. So I remember when I came and worked with you, you had a great kind of simple kind of process to go from that, free offer into that next level. And I started to learn that one of the very first things you taught me was essentially, you could say, how to package my offers, but also how to value my offer. And you broke it down really simply about how to create those consistent 10K months was about packaging and pricing.
Yeah.
And I remember being really confronted by it, but I also was like, oh, oh, that's how you do it. And with you, I quite simply and quite quickly, to be honest, managed to create my first high-end offer, which was high-end at the time. Now I wouldn't call it as high-end because that was in my next level.
Yeah.
And not only that, you taught me how to package it, but then you taught me how to sell it. And the next skill that I learned was like how to have a sales call or a sales conversation, which was absolutely genius. And you broke it down so simply and so clearly and so concisely in a way that was so kind of, in a way, a no-brainer. But it was still at the time very scary and very uncomfortable for me because I'd never sold anything. I'd never priced at that price point. But you really held our hand and taught us how to do it step by step. And I remember I was with you, I think at the time you were doing an event in Belfast in Ireland. And I sold my first high-end offer and her first high-end package. And it was so, so incredible and kind of completely blew my mind. And that was sort of, one of the first steps. There's still some more things to learn, but that was really what pivoted for me in terms of transforming my money game, was simply like what I was offering, how I was offering it, and like how I was presenting it, selling it as well. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so that was the bit. And then there was a few other things that you were teaching us that I remember. I just really remember that transition of like the way you're doing things, and then maybe some of the beliefs I had, and then having to make that transition. But what I love about your work is you dumb it down, make it super simple, and explain it really well. And I had to definitely go through some mindset shifts and some beliefs, which we worked on a little bit as well. And then realized, oh my God, this way of doing things, not only was it more profitable, but it was actually easier and more simple and more effective. So it was just completely blew my mind. So I guess when I'm thinking about people listening to this, like, what would you say are some of the ways that you see business owners like getting stuck, unable to hit those consistent 10K months? What are some of the things you notice when people come into your business that are in the way of creating those results?
Yeah. Number one is not having a plan. And I did this as well myself. Like you, I had a goal that I wanted to reach certain numbers in my business. And I remember becoming really aware of this when I was actually aiming for 20K months, £20,000 sterling. And I'd come really close in January. I'd made 15,000. And like every month I was like, it was like going out to bat every month. It was like, each month going, am I there yet? Am I there yet? Yeah. And I was at a conference where someone said to me, well, what's going on? Like, is it that the plan's not working or you're not working the plan? And I just was dumbfounded. And I said, what plan? And in that instant, I realized my plan had been, I'm just going to work really hard and hope that this effort translates into results. And it doesn't work like that. If it did, it would mean that for everybody watching this video, if they, let's say, wanted to double or triple their revenues, then the way to do that is to double or triple your workload. And in my experience, not only that's not how it works, but actually I've got so many clients that I've helped achieve six-figure results who say to me, I've actually done less than I was previously doing. Because what we do is we get them focused on the things that are going to really, really move the needle. So if we talk about a 10K month, and so I'm also going to interchange between 10K months and six-figure years, because if you have, 10K months, that's 100K. But one of the first things you want to think about is like, well, how many clients and what price point? Because if you're offering like yours was 50 pounds, $50, then you're going to need 2,000 clients to make 100K in a year. Okay, so if we break that down monthly, that's like 170 new clients a month. Well, how's that going to happen? You're not going to do that with organic marketing. And even if you were to go and learn about ads and acquiring clients through ads, which is a whole other skill set that nobody needs before they get to 100K, by the way, probably don't even need that until you're multiple six figures. If you're going to try and do it from that way, you'd probably be spending as much on ads as you would be bringing people in. So I like to look at, okay, well, 100K, there's more efficient ways of doing it. So just out of curiosity, what was the package that you put together when you came to Belfast?
From memory, my memory is not the strongest. I think I did £1,200 for 6 sessions. So it's still, was low, but it was definitely like a big next level for me at the time.
Yeah. And I've got a saying, which is like start where you are. So if at that moment, if that was like the threshold of like your comfort zone, that's the right figure to go for. And I've also worked with clients where they've even gone for maybe a 500 sale, but it was still life-changing for them in terms of how it shifted their belief about what was possible. So, but let's even stick with a figure of 1,200. To have a 10K month selling a 1,200 package, just need to make sure my maths is good here. You need 8 clients, 8 to 9 clients. Well, with the right marketing momentum, that's doable. Well, you might not do it all on, in month 1, but you can set up things in month 1 that feels like a very doable, sustainable marketing plan that are generating those opportunities. And then it literally just becomes a case of one client at a time. So that's, again, another one of my sayings, which is people talk about numbers, people talk about making 6 figures, and they talk about making millions in an online business. And it's like, there's this thing, it's the launch of a launch or a book or a podcast, or it's something like that. It's this magic needle mover. But as you say, like, I like to keep it really simple. And it's like, no, that happens one client at a time. It's like you enroll one client and then you enroll the next client. But all the time as you're enrolling clients, you're upskilling yourself, you're learning new skills, you're getting better and better at presenting the value of what you offer, asking the right questions, overcoming objections. And you also start to shift your beliefs. So people go from, and this is very, very common when people start out, I think, which is they don't believe that, they do not recognize that the money that they make is within their control. Like it's a result that they can claim and make happen. They put the money they make on external factors like the economy or meeting the right people or finding the people who are willing to invest. And what I love to do is help people shift that belief so they actually get to a point and they go, oh, I actually recognize that how much money I make week in, week out in my business is down to what I think, how I feel, and the action I take from that place. And when I do that consistently, the results follow. So it's not this sort of magic, that or reward from the universe. You've been good, have your 10K month. It's actually a result that you can produce.
Definitely. And what I would say about that is I remember one of my kind of mindset blocks. There have been many on my money game, but was looking around me because I was working in healing centers where the average people were charging 50 to maybe 70 pounds an hour at that point.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, it's not possible. I can't charge more. That's not the going rate. No one is doing that. And I'm not even getting enough clients at 50 pounds an hour. That's why I have to keep shrinking my pricing. Who would pay that? And you were teaching this model and how to sell into that kind of higher end packages, which went against everything that I saw. So I think that's the other thing I've seen is people are like determining what they can or cannot do based on their current circumstances or what they're seeing around them.
Yeah. And also, if you're selling a commodity, which is, if you're in a healing center and there's other people offering Reiki or, spiritual healing or whatever the service is, then absolutely there's a going rate, there's a menu, there's a price list. And so one of the first things you've got to do is shift your own thinking to recognize you're not selling a commodity. You're not selling something that people just go and buy off the shelf. You are delivering a result to a person who has a problem they want to solve or a result that they want to achieve in their life. And you have the know-how to help them get there. So you're not selling just something that's like the same as everything else. It's like it's uniquely tailored to their desires.
Well, that's what you helped. One of the many things you helped me understand was that I was selling maybe very much about like time for money. Time for money, is that it? So it's like 1 hour of my time is worth 50 pounds an hour. And you got me thinking differently, which is around, the pain that a client's in and the problem that I could solve.
Yeah.
And the value of that. Like, what is that kind of like thinking it, just literally pivoting my thinking, where before it was like, is this much for this much time? So it was very, very much time for money rather than like selling the transformation or selling the solution to a problem. What can you tell us a bit about that? What do you notice around that kind of shift when it comes to consistent 10K months?
Well, first of all is, if you recognize that you've got this like strong link between time and money, is like have some compassion with yourself, because like this conditioning is really, really strong. And even I know that as I started to break that link between time invested versus, equals money earned, how I bumped up against that belief. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but my first product was a recording of one of my one-day trainings. And this was so long ago that the product was actually audio cassettes. And how I created this product was I came and had this guy, like a sound engineer, came and recorded it. And then when we were listening at the recordings, there was lots of moments where I was saying, my vanity was so great at the time that I was like, we can't possibly release this with me saying all those ums and ahs. So I paid him £1,700 to like painstakingly go through and edit all of those out. It makes me laugh because now AI will do this for you for, a fraction of the price. But I paid him this money and I realized all the hours that I invested in getting that product created, that year we sold £7,000 worth. Now, that was fabulous because it was my first experience of making money where I wasn't physically showing up. So I'm not diminishing the significance of that. But when I actually looked at the end of that first year and I looked at all the hours I'd put into that product and what the product had made, I'd actually ended up earning the same amount per hour that I would have done had I been working with a client. So it's like, that's how strong that time money link is. And so what I've observed in the online world, with the people that you help, is often people go, okay, right, I'm going to go and create an online program because this will be my semi-passive income stream. This will be the thing that creates money without me having to show up all the time. But then they go and turn that into a job. They add on all these extras, like they're inside the Facebook group all the time, or they're doing lots of extra hours, or they're adding on extra hours of coaching. And you actually then break down, you go, look, actually what you're earning per hour compared to what you're previously doing, you're actually possibly sometimes even earning less per hour for all of the hours that have gone into the launch, the creation, the running of that product. So it is a very strong link. I grew up in a family where, my grandparents were laborers, manual time for money. And one of the things I went through as I started to like become really conscious of that conditioning and break that link, I felt a lot of guilt. Like I really felt like I was being disloyal to my ancestors because I was making money so easily. And that was one of the things that I had to work through. And I mean, even now I still bump up against it. So it's like, have compassion that you have that you're making that link, and know that just because you've had a lot of conditioning, it doesn't mean that you have to stay there. There are things that you can do to start to shift that.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's incredible what's running us unconsciously. It's extraordinary. And, and that's what I noticed, that there were some things that I successfully put in place and started to grow with you, but I noticed there were some things I really struggled to take action on. And what was interesting is actually I didn't hit those 10K months consistently immediately. And I felt like a failure. And I felt like, oh my God, like, why can't I do this? What's wrong with me? But what I did do with you in the beginning was really transformational. But I also felt like there were certain things I couldn't do. I wasn't able to take action, or I didn't understand. And one of them was sort of a mindset shift, and my pivot understanding. But this is part of, my work now, is understanding that there were these kind of hardwired, almost like these nervous system responses, trauma responses, that were stopping me from being able to take action. And I was like, so I spent a lot of time going, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Why can everyone else succeed? And so this is where, my body of work started to grow and develop around money and money manifestation and money blocks and all of that. Yeah. So I understood there was almost like this invisible force holding me back. But what you were teaching was very simple. And there were some things that you were teaching me, I think, around funnels, that my brain struggled with some of the concept initially, but then I got it, but I literally couldn't do it. Yeah. And that's where I was like, what is going on? And this is where kind of my body of work started to develop around, beliefs, our ancestry, like these sort of almost like fear of success. There's a lot. I had a lot of things to overcome. So what you're talking about is really, really powerful in terms of being able to take action. That was some of the things I had to overcome. But what was amazing, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation with you, is like, there were some things that I couldn't implement immediately because I was really stuck in my own way, but I eventually implemented, and I eventually clicked in, and eventually kind of got those results. And so what I kind of wanted with my story, I wanted to share that some people can, like, take the ball and go run, and it's fast action results. And sometimes there's things that we have to chip away at for a bit. Yeah. But either way, whether it takes you a month, a year, or 5 years, it's all absolutely worth it. And I remember a few years on being like, oh my God, that's what it was. And like, some things you seed planted with me and taught me, but it took me a while before I could action on it, if that makes sense. Yeah. But the results still worth it, even if, like, some things I'd got right away, and then some things took me a little bit of time to integrate, and I had to go on my own sort of healing journey in order to, in a way, allow that success in. Yeah.
Yeah, so true. I mean, I think that's one of the ways that my understanding has evolved since you were in that program, because I think that we're probably going back about 8 years, maybe longer. But I know around 2018, I suddenly started getting really interested in the nervous system, and then learning about like the fight, flight, freeze response, and then having the understanding, oh, this is what's been happening to some of my clients, that, I'm going, well, here are the steps. It's very simple. Just go do this, do this, do this. And then people are like, literally like a rabbit in the headlights, the fear, the freeze response. Yeah. And just having an understanding, it's like, oh, okay, like the person that's having that response, then they're not going to be able to take action. And where I learned this? Where? Hanging over the side of a 34-story building.
Wow.
I was at a Dr. Joe Dispenza event, and I used to have a real big issue with heights. So the fact that in the course of 7 days, he took me from, there is no way I'm even discussing the possibility of doing this, to actually getting to the point of doing it. And how he explained it, because it was when I was really getting interested in the nervous system as well. And I was like, why is he making me doing this? This is just going to flood my nervous system with adrenaline. This is not why I'm here. And he explained that it's not about adrenaline. It's about finding your edge. And it's about getting to the point where you can really regulate your nervous system. And then you can take, from that place, you can take the next step. And so I'm like, okay, I'm willing to do this. And I did manage to go over the edge. The plan was we were going to rappel, was his word, but which would It was in Canada as well, funny enough, I've just remembered. Abseil, we would call it in this side of the pond. And I got to that point, and I was over the edge, and I was actually lying back with my arms at strength going, wow, like I've done it. But the instructor was then explaining to me how you sort of moved to go down, and what you had this little lever, and you'd like released it and you would move, and then if you needed to stop, a bit like a shopping trolley, really. I could not take in that instruction. I like it might, because at that, although I'd sort of followed what he'd asked me to do, and I'd stayed calm to a point, but at that moment, my nervous system was overloaded. And Dr. Joe had talked about this, which is if people are in that like high fight or flight, information can't go in. Like, you know, so the first thing you have to do is have to help people like calm, like learn to regulate their nervous system, and then take action from that place. So I think that's awesome that you like uncovered that, and now you've made that like your work to serve people in that way, because it's so important.
Yeah, so my work isn't about any strategy. Mine's all the inner game, because that's what was stopping me, because I had a clear vision. I'm very visionary. I'm very, you know, I was getting clear messages and visions about where I was going, but I just couldn't take action. And you were the first stepping stone to how do I do this? And you were like step, step, step. And you just made it super simple and super doable. And then it's like next roadblock. It was like, oh, why? Because there's always another level, right? There's always that next level. And then it was sort of getting so frustrated with myself, but really feeling like I honestly genuinely thought there was something wrong with me. I was like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Why is everyone else able to succeed but not me?
Yeah.
And that's when I went into trauma and nervous system, and understanding there's all these sort of invisible barriers to making money, manifesting money, creating money, and growing in our businesses. So a lot of it for me was like tremendous fear of visibility and attack, and like rejection and judgment, and visibility was a big one for me as well. So there was a lot of things I had to overcome, but what was amazing with your work, it was like the structure was there. It was a simple step-by-step structure. But I think when we go into, I know, for example, my nerve, like when I feel stressed, I go into overwhelm and everything gets kind of like chaotic and complicated. So I always say that if something's feeling complicated and confusing, you're not like, that's your kind of nervous system that's gone, right? Because actually the steps to creating wealth and growing a business are often very simple, and growing like with money too. I'm like, it's simple. It's not actually that complicated. So know that if it's feeling chaotic, complicated, overwhelming, confusing, you've actually kind of left your center, come back into alignment, da, 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 da. And that's what I love about your work, because you really do create that simple, clear, like structure to actually create those results. So, and it's all there. And if we get out of that, oh my God, like it's too confusing and overwhelming, then we can actually listen to Bernadette and take those steps.
Well, you see, another phrase that I have is like data, not drama. And so it's like, okay, yeah, on the face of it, it is very simple. You know, I mean, how do you get clients, right? You figure out what you have to offer that people want. You find out where those people are hanging out, you get them to raise their hands, and then you follow up with them, and you make an invitation to the next step. Like that's it. That's pretty simple. Like that's what I've been doing for 28 years. And that's how I've helped other people to get six-figure and multi results. What doesn't make it simple is then how we are with our own like trauma response, or how we are with our nervous system actioning that. But the key thing is that you don't then use that to make yourself wrong. So for anybody that can relate to what you just said, it's having that thought of like, what's wrong with me? And this will also happen in groups. If you think that your perception is other people are having success, and then you're using that success against yourself, like as like, well, they're all okay, there's something wrong with me. I had a client who was doing this, and we got to the bottom that he had this thought was running like almost like regularly in his head, not just related to business, but across all parts of life. Like, so he was habitually asking himself all day long, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? It'd become like a loop. And I said, okay, spend 5 to 10 minutes every single day for 30 days. And I just want you to answer the question, what's right with me? So he's like just shifting his attention from that habitual like loop to consciously asking the question. He said some days it was really hard to come up with anything. But within 30 days, he was making sales that he hadn't previously been making. And it's like, because he consciously shifted his attention to a new place. So I now say, like, when you're bumping up against the roadblocks or something that appears simple, it's not simple for you to implement. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It's just like, okay, there's some work to be done here. That's it.
Beautiful. So yeah, there's the inner game and outer game, right? There's simple structures and strategies, and then yourself within it. And I think that's the game, isn't it? That's what I've really realized is like, as you grow your business and you grow your financial results, you're growing as a person and you're growing as a business owner. And that's what's, I think, pushing up against those edges. And I think that's what makes it challenging, but also makes it so exciting and thrilling, because there's always, like, I'm always, whatever, once I hit my 6 figures, it's like there's the next level, and you're always kind of pushing up against those edges. They kind of don't stop. So I kind of realized you just have to understand that's the game, and there's always going to be an edge that feels scary, like jumping off the building or and just keep leaning in. I mean, that's the thing, because the regulated nervous system, right, what stays present and can lean in and can show up. And I realized that was part of it as well. It's working on both strategy and then like inner game, outer game, like just keep working both, and it will keep kind of growing and evolving. So we could talk for ages because there's so much gold inside of here, but you've got a really some great resources to help us for anyone who's wanting to figure out those ABCs to consistent 10K months. Can you tell us a little bit about the resources you have available for this?
So, well, there's a few. I mean, the place that I would say to start is to come and download my guide, my free guide, which is the ABC of consistent 10K plus months. And the place to come and do that is come to bernadettedoyle.com/Lara. So that's Lara, your name. Come there and download the guide. And then we know that Lara sent you, and I can take special care of you. And then the other place to come is I do Facebook Lives every week in my Facebook group, and we talk about all aspects of hitting 10K months consistently. So what that means in terms of like the practical, tactical, and the skills necessary, but also that inside job, the mental shifts to make and how to show up consistently without freaking out your nervous system.
Beautiful. Well, that's brilliant. So you've got your Facebook group, you got your PDF guide, and then once you come into Bernadette's network, she'll take very good care of you and share all her golden nuggets. So thank you so much. Is there anything else on your heart today for anyone listening you'd like to close with?
Yeah. So if you've been thinking about creating 10K months, or maybe you're someone who you've got a vision for your business. I speak to people like this, like every week. People come to me and they go, I know I've got something and I can see it all. I know that I need to be doing a podcast and I'll have a book, and I can see myself running retreats or on stage with, hundreds of people in the audience. And my message is start where you are, right? And where the path from where you are, like focus on the first 100K. And the reason I focus on this area is because I think the first 100K is the hardest. I think it's where you have most of those learnings. It's not just the how-to, but all of that inner game stuff. But I love helping people through this phase of the journey, because that's what sets you up and sets the foundation for that, incredible empire that's serving people. And I think a lot of people who are drawn to my work and yours, Lara, like they know that they've got this inside of them. And it's like, how do I create this? How do I get from here to creating that? And my answer to that is, you learn to sell, and you learn to do that one client at a time. And through building the momentum that way, that's how you're going to get your vision. So I would say to anyone who's, even if you stumbled across this video, it's no coincidence that we've been connected, that you've been connected with me, that you've been connected with Lara. There's wisdom here that can really serve you and ultimately help you to reach the people that you are destined to serve.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for sharing all your genius, expertise, experience with us. I really, really appreciate it. And I really wanted to say thank you to you for being such an important stepping stone on my journey. And even what I would say is, even like if you're not hitting it right away, do not give up, because it's absolutely worth it, even if it takes a bit longer because your nervous system's not quite letting you, right? It's worth it. Like keep going, like chip away one step at a time. I have not been one of these like, 0 to 10 million in 10 weeks person. I've gone, the slow and painful route. I now know it doesn't need to be so slow and painful, but it's like slow and steady. Like I'm all about slow, steady, sustainable now, like one step at a time. And that is truly how you bridge like from where you are now to where you want to be. And Bernadette is like the perfect person to give you those stepping stones. So make sure to reach out to her. And we'd love to know how you found this conversation. So please share in the comments below, like what's your number one takeaway from our conversation? Where are you at? We'd absolutely love to hear from you and continue the conversation. And make sure to grab Bernadette's free downloadable resource and join her Facebook group. Thanks again, darling. Wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode. If you haven't already, don't forget to follow or subscribe to this podcast to never miss an episode. And I look forward to being with you again next time for another episode of the Money Manifestation Mastery podcast. See you then.